We saw complications in the second and third trimester, but we were seeing 1 per 500 abortions for over a year. A death, and yes, we had a death, a 32-year-old woman with a 17-year-old son and a 2-year-old son, never made the papers. Her boyfriend felt guilty for his part in the abortion, and he didn't want to deal with it. Her family thought, yes, she had probably had an abortion, but they didn't want to deal with it. It never came out. No lawsuit. The 21-year-old that danced in, and I'll never forget her as long as I live, she was my son's age, danced in to get her problem taken care of, had the extra money to be put to sleep. And you see, my job with 2 of those doctors was to put my right hand on the baby and hold it while they did the abortion so I could tell them where the head was and where the legs were and all of that. And I had my hand on that woman's stomach. And that baby was perfectly inside her uterus. She had been examined by the doctor, and he said, yes, the baby was inside her uterus and everything was fine, and she was 24 weeks. And he went in one time, and he pulled out placenta. And he went in the second time, and he went through the back of her uterus and pulled her bowel out through her vagina. And we put her in the car because we didn't want an ambulance in front of the abortion clinic, and we took her to the hospital. And 7 doctors worked on her, and they did a colostomy on her. And when the reports came back, they said that it was an abdominal pregnancy, that it had not been in the uterus, and 7 doctors and a pathologist concurred with that. And then the hospital wrote off her bill, and there was no lawsuit, ever. She was told that would have been a normal complication. It was just amazing that she had made it that long. And she didn't know any better. And then the girl that the doctors decided had a fibroid tumor at the back of her uterus. That's a highly common tumor that's very rarely malignant. And the 2 doctors decided they were just going to pull this out after she had her abortion. And they didn't know they were pulling on the back of her uterus, and they pulled her uterus out wrong side out of a 21-year-old. She had a hysterectomy. Those are the ones that I remember. Those are the ones that bother me. Those are the ones that I have to go through and deal with and be healed of constantly. Because you see, it was like the mothers were presenting their babies to be killed, and it was okay to kill 500 babies a month. But when we started killing or maiming a mother for each 500 babies, even I couldn't handle that.
We can't eliminate abortions entirely. We can eliminate legal abortions, but safe legal abortions is a euphemism.
Now let us hear what encourages the doctors to perform abortions and what effects the women's rights movements have had on doctors.
The media was very active early on. It really was probably one of the major influences to us. It told us that abortion was, number 1, legal, that it was to serve women, it was to give women a choice, more or less give them a freedom to grow and to take their rightful place in society where they had been kind of pushed down prior to that. We believed the lie that there were tens of thousands of women being maimed and killed from illegal abortions prior to the legalization of abortion law, and we all just kind of, it kind of made things feel a little bit better.
Why do doctors do abortions? Why did I do abortions? As a philosophical thing that comes in first, if you are, as I'm fond of telling people, if you are pro-choice, or what a lot of people like to say, morally neutral on the subject, if there is such a thing, and I don't really think there is, if you are pro-choice and you happen to be a gynecologist, then it's up to you to take the instruments in hand and actively perform an abortion. It's the most natural association in the world. And you do that. You do that as part of your training. In any case, as I said, if you are of a persuasion that, yes, women have a choice, if you've been sold that bill of goods and you believe it, and you're a gynecologist, then you do them. Perhaps it's, I've heard it many times from other obstetricians, perhaps one thing I hear is, well, I'm not really pro-abortion, I'm pro-woman. How many times have you heard that one? The women's groups in this country, they're not alone, but they've done a very good job at selling that bill of goods to the population. That somehow destroying a life is being pro-woman. But a lot of obstetricians use that justification to themselves, and I can tell you a lot of them believe it. I used to.
Curtis Boyd made campaign contributions in large amounts to people that he knew would be effective in keeping abortion legal in Texas and in the United States. I wrote the checks out and he signed them. I mailed those checks. And he was very faithful to send his money. Faithful, I mean religiously sent money. He supported their campaign.
Geez, you are working hard to support the rights of women. What the hell is wrong with the other 750,000 little girls who got ground up in suction machines every year? I think at least in part it's because people don't know.
Medical technology has greatly aided in examining the unborn child. Ultrasound is often used by abortionists. It helps them to be able to see where the baby is positioned in order to carry out the abortion procedure.
But as we all know from the silent scream, the technology of ultrasound has the ability to open a window into the womb. When a woman sees her own baby moving on the screen, it has a profound influence on her, and I believe this is the technology which should be utilized as much as is possible. The abortionists also know that ultrasound can be a valuable tool in performance of an abortion for another reason. Dr. Sally Dorfman reported on the use of ultrasound during abortion at the annual meeting of the American Public Health Association of 1986. She recommended that it be used in all abortions performed after 12 weeks to accurately assess fetal age as a teaching tool and as a means of enhancing safety. It's interesting that they're doing all these things to enhance safety when it's such a safe procedure before they started using it. It is interesting also that she has warned against letting the patient see the image on the screen as, quotes, seeing a blown-up, moving image of the embryo she is carrying can be distressing to a woman who is about to undergo an abortion. She stressed that the screen should be turned away from the patient. She also addressed its effect on staff members and stated that they may need opportunities for venting their feelings and for reconfirming their priorities. What they really need to do is to look at the moving image on the screen and realize that they're about to take the life of a living human being.
Now, it's very common for your obstetrician to have an ultrasound machine. I bet the majority of obstetricians now have ultrasound machines in their office. And we use that ultrasound machine on a daily basis. And again, it's like I say, yes, as a doctor, you know that these are children. You know that these are human beings with arms and legs and heads, and they move around and they're very active. But you get reminded every time you put that scanner down on somebody's uterus, you're reminded. Because you see the children in there. Hearts beating, arms flinging. We have a ball with it. It's a lot of fun.
But I think the greatest thing that got to us was the ultrasound. At that time, the ultrasound, or the sound wave picture, which was moving, called real-time ultrasound, showed the baby really on TV. The baby really came alive on TV and was moving. And that picture of the baby on the ultrasound bothered me more than anything else. Because, as I didn't know then, really, you bond with that picture. Women get those pictures, even if they're still pictures, and boy, it's their baby, and they put it up on walls, they bring it in to show it to me. And the nurses that had to help with this had to look at this to stage how far along the D&E was, because you got paid more if it was, 16 weeks, if it was more if it was 18 weeks, and so on. In other words, the larger the pregnancy, the more you got paid. And the more the clinic got also. So it was very important for us to do that and to make sure they weren't too large for us to do when we started. We lost 2 nurses. They couldn't take looking at it. Some other staff lost. The turnover got greater, when we started doing the D&Es, and mostly, as I said, the ultrasounds. So I think the ultrasound was one of the keys there. The other thing, too, is, of course, the women who are having the abortions are never allowed to look at the ultrasound. And because we knew even if they heard the heartbeat, that many times they wouldn't have the abortion. And then, whoa, we didn't want that, no money in that.
The abortion industry is a highly profitable business. Let us listen now to see if lust for money is involved. Is all of this money reported to the Internal Revenue Service?
Along the way, you find out you make a lot of money doing abortions. I can work in an abortion clinic. I work 9 to 5. I'm never bothered at night. I never have to go out on weekends. I make more money than my obstetrician brethren, and I don't have to face the liability. That's a big factor. That's a huge perk. As I said, in my practice, we were averaging between $250 and $500 for an abortion, and it was cash. It's the one time as a doctor you can say, either pay me up front or I'm not going to take care of you. It's totally elective. When somebody comes to me and is pregnant and their husband's lost a job, and maybe their insurance isn't in effect, we don't turn people away. But when somebody's going to have an abortion, it's an elective procedure. You have the money or you don't, and they get it. Nobody's going to call me at night, and I almost never have to worry about her lawyer ever bothering me.
I've seen doctors walk out after 3 hours work and split $4,500 between them on a Saturday morning. More if you go longer into the day, of course. If abortion is such a good thing, why don't they give them away? They don't collect the doctor's money with the clinic money. They collect it separately and do not show it on any of the records in those clinics. The 4 clinics I've been in and worked in never show that they collected the doctor's money at any place. That way, they're independent contractors. You don't have to be concerned with their malpractice insurance, and you do not have to report it to IRS.
Every single transaction that we did was in cash money. We wouldn't take a check. We wouldn't take a credit card. Now, there were times when we tried doing checks, but we kept losing money. And there was times when they did the Medicare and, you know, those kind of abortions. But after I got to work there, we eliminated all that, and it was a cash-only deal. And I mean, it was cash only. If you didn't have the money, forget it. It wasn't unusual at all for me to take $10,000, $15,000 a day to the bank in cash.
A lot of these folks do not declare all their income. This is cash on the barrelhead. And when you're dealing in cash, unless you're honest, you can just not have a record for that patient, not make an entry on your ledger. And I know some people who were paid under the counter that they would get even half of their salary in cash, and they never had to pay taxes on it. Why the IRS, who comes after all of us normal folks who are, you know, just can't add right or whatever, and they don't touch these guys? You know, this must be spiritual warfare. I don't understand why not.
I believe that the IRS would be well worth their effort to get involved in that. And
Is abortion a lie? Does it promise a better life, or does it deliver death? Let us hear then what it is all about and what really happens to both the baby and the mother in an abortion.
Because a lot of people don't know what abortion is about. They don't know what is being aborted, and they don't know how it's being done.
I used to think of abortion as eliminating a problem instead of killing a baby.
Then I was trained to do all sorts of fun medical things, like take blood pressure. It was very exciting for me. I just really loved it. I'll tell you, I really liked it. I liked my job. I got to wear a white uniform. All the desires of my heart to be a nurse were being somewhat fulfilled, as evil as it was. I did not see how evil abortion was. It did not bother me at all. When I saw my first abortion procedure, I didn't see it any different than dissecting a frog in biology. I didn't see it any different. And I had blinders upon my eyes, as I believe many people involved in the abortion industry do. I believe that many of them, giving them the benefit of the doubt, such as me, didn't really see the evil that they were partaking in.
Euphemisms that are used, clusters of cells, products of conceptions, or just plain tissue, are all lies. I have been there, and I have seen these totally formed babies as early as 10 weeks, a couple inches long, with a leg missing, or with their head off.
I killed my baby, and I'm still not through that, and how difficult it is for all these women. Because you see, I believe every woman, even if she's not physically harmed, is harmed by abortion.